Good morning, everybody. It is time for Living Low Sodium with Mary Schepp, brought to you by My LoSo Lifestyle, MyLoSoLifestyle.com, where you can find all kinds of cool stuff, information about the show, recipes, all kinds of cool stuff about living low sodium. Today, there's no friggin' salt. There's no salt. Mary.
God, the amount of times
Where's the
that
salt?
I get asked that question, your recipe forgot salt. No, I didn't forget salt. Or, that looks really, really good. I'm going to have to add some salt. You'd be surprised that you really don't need to if, you just made a little bit of an effort. So it's funny because I also had a conversation with someone the other day about, morning, Ed. Like they said, you need salt, you need sodium. I do. You do. We all do. That's why it's living low sodium, not living no sodium.
Yeah.
Because, and the amount of times that I shouldn't say argue, that we debate about the need for salt. And I've never denied the fact that you need salt, which is just funny to me. But so the whole conversation of there's no salt on this came up just a couple days ago when I posted a picture of a flank steak that I cooked on the grill. And I was laughing because my inner Pete came out, and I was telling my husband that, I'm going to post this in my recipe group because it's reminiscent of a Pete recipe. Like, I put some bologna on a piece of bread. Follow me for more recipes.
Right? Yeah.
So it's like, I took because I ordered Dax no salt spices by the pound.
Yeah.
I don't order the little tiny thing. So my Dax spices came in. So it was literally flank steak, some oil, and Dax Red Mountain Rub, which is like a barbecue kind of taste. And then grill it. And that's it. That's the recipe. It's not very complicated at all. So I thought it was funny that was my post. And immediately, people say, it looks great. It looks fantastic. It's perfectly cooked. And it was absolutely, I was planning on bringing some into you today, but we ate it all.
And that's fine because it's beef.
Yeah.
And
I was hoping just to have a little tiny piece of it.
I'm staying so far away from beef anymore.
But it was just funny because everyone says, especially with steak or beef or any kind of animal protein, I've talked about it to death about the Maillard reaction.
Yeah.
And when you have an animal protein, it just lends so well to that if you get that good sear, the chemical reaction, the change in the amino acids that gives it that flavor, that right there is what tastes salted. So people are really, really shocked. So it's funny because a lot of times I don't argue with them. I don't try and spout back and say, nope, you don't need it. You don't need this. You could be low sodium, whatever. If you want to add salt and your body can handle it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because the only way to win that argument is when they actually try my food. And I'm not going to have everybody on Facebook, as much as you guys all want to, and it'd be fun party. I'm not going to have you all over to my house for dinner. It's just not going to happen, so.
Okay, well, there y'all heard it. We are now officially disinvited to Mary's house.
Yeah,
so I don't know what to tell you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Good morning, beautiful mother and dad in studio watching from Cameroon. Hope you guys.
Oh, it's Mbonwe. Hey, how you doing? We know that there Mbonwe is a regular Facebook Live tuner, inner, and listener, and we really love having them jump in on our shows. Thank you. Good morning.
So that's another question that I have is, how come I have a following in like the Philippines and I think
Philippines,
part of it
Singapore, Cameroon.
Right. I think part of it is because of the time frame in which I am on is an afternoon, because we are radio. First and foremost, we're radio. We do Facebook because it's fun and we can and it's free.
Yeah.
But right now is like their afternoon dinner like time. It's
right.
tomorrow.
And in your time slot here at 7 a.m., you're actually on the radio hitting an average of right around 500 to 600,000 listeners. in a morning, which, by the way, good morning, Brazil. Brazil for the last 2 months, well, April and May, has been our number 2 listening country.
Really?
Yeah.
I always
Go
wonder why
figure.
some places listen to more radio than others, but
Yeah.
who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Don't know why, but yeah, Brazil has been our number 2 right after the good old U.S. of A.
She might be back in the States now. One of my best friends, one of my childhood best friends, has been in Brazil for the last year or so, and she's moving back this month. So she's either back or in her way to transit back here. Her husband's military, so they've been all over the place.
Well,
but I think it's funny because the amount of times people say that, I forgot the salt in the recipe, or you didn't list any salt. Should I add salt? Can I add salt? Sure you can. And my husband picks on me whenever I add salt to recipes. And yes, I do use salt on occasion, sparingly, usually in the form of the Lowry's low sodium garlic salt. Because I'm not going to lie, you cannot replace a sprinkle of salt on a tomato or a piece of zucchini from the garden. So having that garlic salt is just one of those things. So as soon as I found that Lowry's had a low sodium option,
yeah,
that was my go-to. So we keep it in the cupboard. So my husband picks on me every once in a while when he adds it to this, that, or the other. The same goes for sugar. Like once you stop having sugar, and then you go back. So my husband and I, we just stopped. We realized we were drinking an insane amount of soda. So we just quit drinking pop altogether. And that was like 2013 or something like that. Long before I had any health issues whatsoever. I think we bought like 3 cases in one weekend. Now, of course, we had a couple friends over, but still, that's a lot of pop to go through outside of having a big ass party.
Yeah.
So we just stopped drinking pop. And it was quite some time later that I just, like, oh, that sounds good. I'm going to get a Coke at the drive-thru or something. 2 sips into it, and it's like, God, like, oh,
you were on a sugar high,
right?
2 sips in,
like it almost hurt my teeth to drink that. And the same with juice, because I don't know, we're coffee drinkers, so it's coffee and water pretty much in our house. And
seeing for me, we always have some sort of soda, but I like I've got this. I won't say the name on the air, but it's a cherry flavored drink of sorts that was put together by supposedly a person with a PhD. I don't know, but like that kind of stuff. But that bottle, I started that bottle yesterday. I stuck it in the fridge last night.
Yeah,
it'll last me probably all the way through this afternoon. I don't drink a lot of soda. I really don't.
It's so cloyingly sweet.
Yeah, and it really is.
Now, I've taken, and I've mentioned this a couple times, where unless it's baking actual, cookies or something like that, because there's the way that sugar breaks down in baked goods, and it it's hard to replace. There's just certain things that are hard to replace. But outside of the cookies that I make, I only use honey if I'm adding sugar. So even in my breads and all that stuff, if I want to add sugar or anything like that, it's always honey. Because if I'm going to have the fructose glucose, I'm going to get it in a balanced form that actually gives me some kind of benefits. So if it's got the downside of being a sugar, and sugar again is not necessarily bad, the same as salt. It's the excessive way in which we eat both of those things that is the problem. Just like anything else, you can have a glass of wine and it's not bad.
Right.
If you have 6 bottles before noon, it might be an issue.
Something's going to be an issue.
Right. You're going to end up in my boat with a liver that's screaming at you. So now there's another statement that I've heard more often than not is, well, I'm one of those people that naturally craves salt more. So that's not a thing.
No.
You don't. And I've had people tell me like I need more salt or I crave more salt or I can't live without it. That is
Well, you may
that's
crave something.
right.
But that's because you've geared your brain
Right.
to want it.
Yeah. So the taste for salt is a learned behavior. It is not an instinctual thing. You instinctually get thirsty. And the funny thing is I forget what the number is, but it's something really high, like 90 or 80% of the people don't know the feeling of thirst. They mistake it for hunger because you don't know what it's like to be thirsty. Or you think you're thirsty and you're not thirsty. Your body needs something else.
Yeah.
So if you're overheating or you're doing whatever or anything like that, and you think that you're thirsty because you think you feel thirsty and you slam a bunch of water when in actuality your body wants potassium or sodium or magnesium or protein or sugar because you're depriving it of those things because you've done nothing but live off of Starbucks all morning and you're about to die because it's nothing but coffee, caffeine, and sugar.
Yeah.
So you don't really, and yes, I mean, you can crave salt for a necessary reason if you go below the point. I can't remember if it's hypo or hypernatremia, but you can be too low in sodium. I've been there and it's awful. It's horrible. You feel like garbage. Your muscles cramp. You get headaches. It's bad. So there's a fine balance. But the wanting to salt everything, I'm not gonna lie, I used to salt my ketchup. So when I'd eat French fries, I would salt the ketchup because it wasn't salty enough for me. And then you get salty fries. So I'd have my salted fries with my salted ketchup. And the ketchup itself is like 300 milligrams per tablespoon.
You sat down to a dish of salt with a sprinkling of fries and ketchup. That's what you had.
I had some I had some tomatoes and potatoes added to my salt block.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can just see you with one of those blocks of salt they stick out there in the field for the deer and such. And then there's a little bit of fry on the top, a little bit of ketchup on the top, and you're fine.
It's like a tapas plate for me, it's a small bite. It's I could make a fancy restaurant out of it. Here's your salt block.
That would be hilarious.
Right? That would kind of be funny. The no salt girl has a salt tapas place.
That would be hilarious.
But it's a learned behavior. So it's the same as I've said before, where as a baby, or a toddler, you're not craving sugars and salts. So when you say your kid will only drink Capri Suns, that is a behavior that you taught
gave it to them.
Right?
Yeah.
Your kid didn't go to Jewel and get a Capri Sun. So if they've never had it, and I remember growing up where one of my friends that I grew up with, in their household, they just didn't have it. There wasn't pop. There wasn't, like, it was a treat to have ice cream in the house. And when there was ice cream, it was plain Jane vanilla ice cream. Outside of that, it was water and orange juice. And there was nothing ever other than real food in their house. So anytime she had something else, even she would be like, oh my gosh, but it's good. It's good. Why? Because you're 8 years old and all of your friends get to drink pop. Yeah. So even though your brain is like, holy crap, I'm going to be on a sugar rush for 16 weeks.
I remember the first time I ever had a Coke. And I thought, this is the most wonderful thing in the friggin' world.
Right.
My mom's sister gave it to me. And she's like, she's like, did your mom let you have Coke? And I'm like, yeah, all the time.
Right.
But it was my very first one. And holy crap. It was much like the Twinkies. Angels sang.
Right.
Not as loudly as the Twinkie Angels, but they sang.
Well, that's what's fun. I mean, sugar is a little bit different because sugar, I forget which episode we talked about that on, but sugar you do instinctually have a core drive for, because sugar is free energy.
Right.
So if you were the guy, however many hundreds of thousands or whatever years ago, that had the balls to climb up a tree and stick his fist into a honeybee hive to get the honey.
Yeah.
That was free energy, because when you think about it, when you don't have access to soda and packaged goods, if you were literally Armageddon style stuck fending for your food right now, how much sugar could you realistically find? And when I ask people that question, their answer is always, strawberries and peach. Okay. So it's Armageddon. You don't have Jewel to go get those strawberries. So unless you walk your ass over to one of our farms and hope that there's still one growing right now, that fruit wasn't readily available. So other than pockets of population where those fruits are native to, so if you lived on the Hawaiian Islands, you might have had, pineapples and stuff like that. But you didn't have access to that fruit. So your body instinctually is geared to find sugar. And when it finds sugar, that's why you have that dopamine release, because your instincts are telling you, remember where that is, because that is free energy. So when you're starving in 2 weeks because you couldn't find anything to hunt, kill, or gather, then go climb the tree and get stung 7,000 times because it's worth it for that honey.
Or you'll be dead.
Right.
Because you discovered bee allergies.
Right. Well, survival of the fittest, I guess. Evolutionarily.
Well, must have been. I mean, obviously must have been. That
Right.
that is interesting to think about, because humans, right alongside the Cro-Magnon and the Homo sapien, has been around for 300,000 years.
It's only the last couple years.
Our recorded history that we are fully aware of at the moment only goes back 6,500 years to Sumeria. That's the first known recorded history, documented civilization. So we've got a teeny tiny blip.
Well, then you
on
take
the radar.
that blip and you squish it even further and go, okay, now let's take, and you get rid of, Wild West times, all this stuff. You think of when, I shouldn't say Wild West, that wasn't as far back, but you think about how long ago was it that we invented canned food? That was World War I, I think.
Yeah.
So when you think about
late 1800s, early 1900s.
Right. So you think the last 100 or 200 years is when we actually started creating packaged foods in ways to, right? That's just, okay. Apparently Kent grew up in the Philippines.
Philippine, Ohio.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But you think about that, and you think about
Mr. Mango.
When we started creating fast food and canned goods and packaged goods and the ability to freeze or keep things cold. Just those things. So when you think about it, you go, so when you try and say that, evolution, and as you evolve, we should be evolving to consume less sugar. What has geared us to that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing done other than to create a better path to it. So your brain, outside of you learning it, that's why sugar is such a problem, because you do crave it. Salt, on the other hand, you really don't, unless you're so astronomically low on the sodium chart that you actually start feeling the physical effects. There's no drive for salt unless you've learned that behavior. So if you like salt on your watermelon, another thing,
Salt on watermelon?
Mm-hmm.
Who? Okay.
I did. A lot of people did.
I've never heard of that.
I think Kent's Googling.
Kent must be. He's
That's a novel.
Yeah. Kent says, by 1810, Englishman Peter Durand had introduced a method for sealing food in unbreakable tin cans. The first...
soldered with lead, by the way.
Yeah, true. The first commercial canning establishment in the U.S. was started in 1912 by Thomas Kensett. Thank you, Google Kent.
I believe it was... and I think I just watched this on...
Mustard is good on watermelon as well. You must have been stoned for that one. That sounds horrible.
That's a weird one.
But I will say that my dad actually loved mustard so much, and we teased him about it. But my dad actually would put mustard on ice cream. I don't know why. That's gross.
I wasn't a mustard person as a kid, but I'm a mustard person now.
Yeah.
So another myth is that you can tell that food is salty. And I get that. Yes, there's certain things, like if I put salt on Pete's watermelon, he would tell that it's salty.
And I'd be like, what the hell's wrong with this watermelon? It's salty.
But when you actually start watching your sodium, and I will say that that's the one thing that I love, because I never push a diet or a low sodium or a lifestyle on people. I just don't. Like, you want to eat the way you want to eat. I don't care. I just want to educate you on it. But the amount of people that come to me and say, I started paying attention. So if my if the only thing that I influenced you to do is read the labels and pay attention to what you're consuming and go, whoa, maybe I will find a little bit better option than this. That makes me happy. Because when people tell me that you can tell when food is too salty and they start reading labels and then they come back to me and go, holy crap, did you know that like Oreo cookies, it's like 100 milligrams of salt in a cookie? They don't taste salty. Right. They don't, but they are.
Yeah.
And you don't think of things that have sodium, like baking soda, I think it's early and my numbers might be wrong, but I think it's like 1,200 milligrams or something per teaspoon.
Yeah.
And most batches of cookies ask for a teaspoon or two of baking soda or baking powder. It's by sodium carbonate. It is literally sodium by nature. That's what it is. And then on top of that, most cookie recipes ask for a teaspoon of salt to enhance all of the flavors of the chocolate or whatever cookie you're making.
Kent says you have to try it before you say you don't like it. Check TikTok. I will say, Kent, I have seen a lot of those, hey, these things don't belong together.
Right.
And actually from your McHenry County recipe share group on Facebook, someone had put up a post, I think it was was it Nicole perhaps, who put up a post that said, name something peanut butter goes with other than bread.
Yeah.
And, of course I put honey and blah, 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 blah. But someone put oatmeal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, no.
It's good.
I did a TikTok. I actually tried it. And I was like preparing for horribleness.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was really good. And I will do it again.
Yeah.
So that is true. Another thing on TikTok I learned, and you guys will probably think this is horribly gross, but I enjoyed it, was Welch's grape jelly on nachos on Doritos, nacho cheese Doritos.
I would believe that.
It actually is freaking awesome.
I would believe that.
For me, I liked it.
That was my go-to chip growing up was Doritos. It was what was always in our house.
I still love Doritos. To this day, I love Doritos. Doritos are my favorite chip.
They're dangerous because I try to limit when I have them, or I'll get the spicy ones for my husband because then I won't eat all of them.
Yeah.
But I given half the chance, I will. I'm sorry.
That'd probably put you on your rear end because of the.
They're not horribly bad, but
Really?
They are high. They're not. I can afford a couple.
Yeah. Because I like the spicy ones. I love the super cheesy, the extra nacho cheesier.
So the nice thing is though.
Anyway, we have digressed.
Your palate, well, a little bit, but not. I mean, it brings us right back to point where. Wow, my super squeaky chair.
Yeah, we need to oil these, tighten them up a bit, I think.
Whoever got you these, they should have gotten you something better.
You know what? Her heart was in the right place.
But the Doritos, it's funny because talking about people who say they naturally crave more salt or they can't live without it, they have to have it, they can't eat, food just tastes awful without it. Just like anything else. Recently I was reading an article about how long it takes, like 21 days or something like that to change a habit. So it's why, diets and exercise and lifestyle change and all of these things, like even if you simply say, I'm going to get up every single morning at 6:00 to start my day and just, get up earlier and not feel so lazy. Like you're not exercising, you're not doing it just to have that change. And 2 days into it, you're like, oh, I don't care. I don't want to. It takes time to get a rhythm in your body, for your body to gain a rhythm and change your internal clock. So even something as simple as getting up earlier, that's the way you make those changes. So to eliminate sodium, the easiest, everybody has a different way. My way was all or nothing. It was easier for me to literally just get rid of everything in my cabinet that had salt in it and start fresh. And I went clean palate for 6 weeks. And it changes your palate. And some people it's a little bit faster, some people it's a little bit longer, but it does. It completely changes your palate and how you taste things. It's very similar when people quit smoking. A lot of people gain weight when they quit smoking. I lost weight when I quit smoking because everything tasted horrible. Everything smelled horrible because without smoking, I could smell things and I could taste things better.
Hmm.
It was like, I drove by a McDonald's and almost puked.
Wow.
Just the smell of the fat and the grease and the fryers, and it was just nauseating to me. So it took weeks for me to get used to that change in my body. So you can. And when people argue that you can't, I've tried it. I would be willing to wager a large amount of money that says you tried it, but you didn't. Like you stopped with the salt shaker, but you were still eating the Doritos and you were still eating the potato chips and the canned foods and the Marie Callender pot pies. You know, it's good that you got rid of the salt shaker because you probably eliminated half of your sodium intake.
Yeah.
But you didn't go low sodium. You didn't change your palate. So you can get used to not having salt. And that's why, like with Doritos, even when I really want them, I still can only handle a few because they are salty as hell to me.
Are. Oh, there's I don't think I have ever salted a Dorito.
No, I don't know. Well, I guess there's probably some people that would, because some people really do salt everything.
I've never salted a Dorito. I like Doritos. I like Doritos in dip, in cheese.
I used to crush them up and put them on my pizza.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like a sandwich or something.
I've done sandwiches. Everybody should try potato chips on a sandwich.
Yeah.
I've had a potato chip sandwich.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like when you're broke and you have no money and you have Doritos and bread and mayonnaise.
Yeah.
You make a Dorito sandwich.
Yeah.
Or a Lay's sandwich or a barbecue chip sandwich.
Oh, yeah. I've done that. And it's, or sometimes you just have a wish sandwich, like the Blues Brothers said. You wish you had something to go between two slices of bread.
And you don't. So you put Doritos in there or a pickle in. Like that's the mother of creation is necessity, right? Stews and pies and all this stuff. It was what you have and what you can do with it and how it can go together because you're starving. So you're going to make it happen. It's funny because the other myth that I come across a lot is that, and I if you watch or listen to my show for the past, I think 75 episodes it showed me. Can you believe that? 75 episodes.
Wow.
That pink, black, rose, sea, or Himalayan salt, Celtic salt, or any other kind of salt is better for you than iodized table salt. And it is not true. On my notes, I just put no. No. It's not.
Yeah.
The amount.
It literally says no.
Right.
Just no.
Everybody, I don't even hear it anymore when people tell me, oh, well, I use Himalayan salt or I use pink salt. It's good for you. No. And it's not that it's bad for you. It's not bad for you. Pink salt, Himalayan salt, and even salt, regular table salt is not bad for you. And of course, then there's people who argue that, the iodinized table salt, is bad for you or good for you because you do or you don't need the added iodine or whatever. So that's not necessarily true. But to say that pink salt or Himalayan salt is healthier for you is based on the premise of every single website that boasts just that because they get a kickback for every time you click on the link to the Himalayan sea salt that you buy. The premise is that you have more minerals and compounds because it's less refined, which is true. So it's got potassium, magnesium, and all of these, minerals of the earth. So it's healthier for you. But when you look at the actual chemical breakdown of a serving of salt, which obviously is, you're not having a bowl or a cup of salt. You're having a quarter teaspoon or a half teaspoon or something like that. So the amount of potassium or magnesium or anything that you get is like 0.001 parts per whatever.
Man.
You get more potassium licking the skin of a banana than you do from the healthy aspects of this other stuff. So if you're going to have salt, personally, I like the pink salts and the gray salts better than table salt. So if I'm going to use one as a finishing salt, that's what I'll use.
And I would wager to say that if you're someone who's licking the skin of a banana, you have other issues versus
You should be on
being
TikTok.
low salt. Yeah, just go do a TikTok and lick your banana skin. That's gross.
Right. That says the banana hater.
Yeah. Hate bananas. So
when you don't have salt, you talk about bringing the flavor, and I've gone over this quite a few times, that there's so many different ways to bring flavor to a dish. And I love cooking for people and having them tell me that they enjoyed my food or that they were shocked that it tastes so good, which sounds like a borderline insult. I was really surprised. That was really good. Well, thanks.
I think I've actually said that to you, so my apologies.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I get it. I know it's not meant to be an insult.
No.
At all.
Not at all.
But it is funny because so many people say that.
Like, you expect your anticipation is as someone who always who's never had an issue with salt, and you put it on whenever you feel like, I'd like a little salt on this. But when you try something that is intentionally very unsalted, very low sodium, your expectation is that it's going to be bland. That's just what you've come to expect. And it's not the case at all. Quite often we get to, when you bring stuff in, we get to enjoy the actual flavors of the food itself. And it's quite nice.
Well, that's the amount of feedback that I got when I joined the Tamale Contest.
Mm-hmm.
And on the
on Anything Goes
with Bremer and Jones.
Yeah.
So when I joined the Tamale Contest, everybody was all excited. And they're like, wait a minute, is this a low sodium contest? No. Why would you join a salted competition with a low sodium food? So everybody afterwards sent me messages like, oh, it sucks that you lost. I really didn't care that I lost. I wanted 4 people to eat my food and not spit it out. And everybody ate all of it.
Yeah.
And no complaints. Now they could tell that it wasn't salted, but it was also funny because it went from mine with no salt, and there was one tamale on that panel that literally almost burnt my tongue. I can't remember whose it was. It was still good, but it was salted. But that's what I love. And I have a lady that works with me, and the way she always explains it is that she thinks that she needs to salt it with the first bite, but then it's gone and she didn't realize it and she didn't salt it. Because every time she takes another bite of whatever I've given her, chili or pastas or anything that I've ever made for her, because she is one of my taste testers. She gets a lot of my food. She's like, I taste it. It's like, oh, this could, you know what? It could use a little bit of salt. And then another bite and another bite and another bite. And then the next thing you know, the bowl's empty.
Yeah,
she's
it's pretty
eaten it
much
all.
Gone.
And she's like, oh, maybe it didn't need any salt.
Yeah.
Like it tasted really good. And that's what she said. She's like, how do you get like these layers? Like when you don't have the salt to mask everything, you do get these layers of flavor.
Yeah.
That's what is so funny to me when you watch all these cooking shows, are like, it's not seasoned. Like you're 60 years old, half your taste buds are dead and you don't know what you're talking about. Like just because you went to the culinary school, you need to try something without, and you can see all of them. They're all puffy.
Well, don't your taste buds renew, or like they like your taste buds literally shed and renew every 6?
They do, but
6 to 8 weeks or something like that. It's like a lot more frequent than you would think.
They have a finite lifespan though.
Do they?
So
I have to Google that.
Like no, he had to run.
Yeah, he had to go.
They do. Your taste buds do renew and slough off and renew and grow and renew and grow. However, I think at about age 40 or 45, you start losing about half your palate. So they can't regrow constantly. So eventually if your taste buds can, regenerate 8 billion times or whatever the hell it is, at some point they just don't. So you start losing your sense of taste. You don't ever, maybe if
that's not COVID, by the way.
No. you might,
it's just old. So.
Yeah, it's fun to get old. But you don't lose your taste. Maybe if you grew to be like 300 years old, you might eventually lose your entire taste. But as you age, you do lose your sense of taste. It diminishes. So you can still taste stuff, which is probably why you see people who are 60, 70, 80 years old salting and seasoning and saucing more heavily.
Yeah.
Because they don't taste it as much. So it's more and more and more when they're the exact opposite should be happening is they should be getting less and less and less because of their age and their high blood pressure and everything else.
Right.
So
yeah, that's understandable.
But yeah, you do actually lose your taste buds. But balsamics, citrus oils, citric powder. So I actually have citric powder in my cabinet. It works great on like popcorn or fresh made homemade potato chips because it adds, it's not salt, but it adds that punch of flavor that you're used to with salt. So when you salt popcorn or something, as soon as it hits your tongue, you taste it, and that's the hit that you're looking for, that almost that jolt. And with that citric powder, I mean, a little bit goes a long way. But if you mix it with a barbecue seasoning or an Italian seasoning or something of that nature, you can make your own potato chips or popcorn, and it tastes absolutely amazing. And then the other one a lot of people don't know about is nutritional yeast. They're just dehydrated yeast flakes. They're not an active yeast, but for many people, it's reminiscent of a cheese flavor. So you can add it to certain dishes and get that. Some people will, that because it tastes so much like cheese to them, they will just sprinkle it on popcorn. And it makes it taste, and it's really good for you. Vegans know a lot about it. Typically, anytime you know a vegetarian or a vegan, if you mention nutritional yeast, it's pretty common that they know what it is because it's a good protein option. Since they're not eating animal protein because they're vegans, they need all of the protein options they can get. So they are aware of the nutritional yeast.
I didn't even know nutritional yeast was a thing until right now.
Yep. You can buy it in just about every grocery store. Sometimes it's a little hard to find. Comes in a big plastic bottle that looks almost like the same bottle that Parmesan cheese would come in.
Now I know what that is because we use that often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now the same thing with all of those options, balsamics and citrus and oils like olive oils and grapeseed oils and all of those things. There's something to be said for using the right product for the right time. And what I mean by that is the right oil for the right occasion, the right balsamic for the right occasion. The same with potatoes and onions and garlic. Everybody, especially with potatoes, everybody buys the big giant bag of russet potatoes and they make everything out of it. My mom did. So that's all I ever knew was the big russet potato that you would make baked potatoes, potato salad, mashed potatoes, French fries. You would make any kind of fried potatoes. You make any kind of potato that you wanted out of that one potato. And the same with balsamics, vinegar as well. A lot of times vinegar is not quite what you think it is. So you got to pay attention and get good quality vinegar. Balsamics, same thing. Oil, especially olive oil, they have different smoke points. So I have since stopped cooking with olive oil.
Oh, yeah?
Because it has a low smoke point. So I use it more often as a finishing oil. Because if you're actually frying food, you're better off with something that has a higher smoke point, like a grapeseed oil, avocado oil, or clarified butter.
Okay.
My personal favorite is clarified butter because the flavor that it imparts in things, you just can't get with anything else. It's smoky and fatty and nutty, and it tastes absolutely amazing. And you notice it. And once I started using it, my husband noticed it. Like, what is this taste?
Yeah.
My husband has an amazing palate and doesn't know it. I use a different spice or whatever, and he immediately, what is that? There's something new in here. When I first started using coriander.
Oh, yeah?
Like, you seriously can taste the coriander powder? He's like, I don't know what that is. Was that what I'm tasting? Like, if he actually spent the time, like a sommelier or whatever for wine?
Oh, yeah.
If he took the time to learn what all these spices are, he'd be like, oh, I can, there's a hint of coriander.
He could be a food sommelier.
Right. So potatoes, you have starchy, waxy, and then your all-purpose, all-around, everyday potatoes. Russet potatoes, yams, Japanese sweet potatoes. I've never heard or seen Hannah sweet potatoes in our area. That might be a locational thing. But those are ideal for frying or baking. Roasting and boiling potatoes are red potatoes, like the fingerling potatoes that you see, the little tiny ones. And there's a couple other ones on here that, again, I think are locational because I haven't seen those. And then all-purpose, your Yukon Golds, and then your red golds are the ones that you'll see a lot around here. They're more all-purpose. But if you actually, Google's your friend. I hate to say it, and I hate to be the one, but it's true.
Yeah, everything is friggin' on Google. So.
Right. So when you have, a starchy or a waxy potato, they lend to certain things. The same as when I started using more of a waxy potato for my potato salads because they hold together a little bit better. And then I also learned that if you put a shot of vinegar in the boiling water at the very end, the outside of that potato cube gets firm, and then the inside stays tender. So they get less smushy in your potato salad. So when you do it right at the tail end, because I like a little bit of smushy because it kind of creates the sauce in your potato salad. Mm-hmm. But every time I have potato salad from the store, I'm like, how do they get the potatoes to hold their shape sitting here all day? And that was how I figured that out. So the other one that came up just recently is garlic. Everybody knows that I talk about garlic. I love Garlic Underground. It's local here by us. It's a farm, Garlic Underground. It's a garlic farm. It's not a cult. Garlic Underground. Yeah. Always makes me think of it's like a band or something.
That would be a good name for a band.
Right? It would.
Garlic Underground.
But right now is the season.
They'd be like vampire hunters or something.
So, that's funny.
You just set my brain on an entire trip. You threw me a squirrel.
I guess.
Sorry.
Yeah. Ooh, something shiny. So there are, you're not in the average person in a grocery store is not going to find different species of garlic.
I didn't even know there was.
There's a lot. And they all have, I'll get some of the spicy one from Garlic Underground and you'll be addicted. My husband loves it.
Wow.
But there are different kinds. So if you have a garlic farmer near you, there's different kinds of garlic and it's absolutely fabulous. But the reason it came up is because right now is the season we just got through the season for spring garlic and we're getting into garlic scapes. So they're all still garlic. It's just different times of year for the garlic. So a garlic scape, keeps sounding like garlic escape. Garlic scape. Right. 2 different words. When you have a garlic bulb growing in the ground, and if you've ever had a garlic bulb at the grocery store and there's that hard woody stem in the center.
Yeah.
If it's soft neck, it's a soft woody stem in the center.
Okay.
But it's that hard piece in the center. Well, when it's in the ground, that's what shoots up out of the ground and sprouts leaves and flowers to create more garlic and so on and so forth. And the life cycle continues. Well, if you cut that shoot off when it's young before it actually creates a flower bulb, then more energy is given to growing the garlic bulb underground bigger. So you can pick them when they're young, and the garlic bulbs are really tiny, and that's spring garlic. And then you enjoy the garlic and the shoots, the leaves that come off the top that look like scallion onions.
Okay.
So it's it literally tastes like a garlic scallion.
Huh.
So you can chop those up, and you can use the garlic bulb at the bottom, which is what I did because Garlic Underground loves me, and they brought me some spring garlic. So they're tiny little, smaller than a ping pong. I roasted them whole with my potatoes yesterday and literally ate the entire garlic bulb.
Wow.
My husband and I were like, these are so good. And of course, Ben asked me, why don't you get these more often? Because spring garlic is only available in the spring. And we are now out of it. I know we're summer, but with the lack of rain and everything growing slower, the spring garlic was a little bit late this year. But that garlic scape is the shoot of that center of the garlic. And when you cut it, it forces the garlic to give more energy to the bulb instead of creating a flower, which is why you get these big, giant garlic bulbs with all the little heads of garlic on it, or vice versa. Garlic ball, garlic head, whatever. Either way, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But the scape, that nice green piece, they're tender garlic shoots. You can saute them. It's popular to make pesto out of them. So that was because you're seeing them in farmers markets right now, or if you have a CSA and you have a box of farm goods delivered to you from your farmer, which if you're looking for a CSA, community supported agriculture, and you're local here, go to Fresh from the Farm McHenry County. It's a group on Facebook, and you will find some of the farms that still are offering CSAs. And so a lot of people are getting those in their box of goods that they get delivered, their subscription from the farm. So everybody's posting, what the heck do I do with a garlic scape? What is a garlic scape? What are these things? You can literally just saute them with onions and oil. And it's like a super tender, almost like a scallion onion, but garlic. Blend them up and make a pesto. You can, I do mashed potatoes, or you can saute them, put them over mashed potatoes. You can do them with your roasted vegetables. There's just about a million different ways that you can make them or use them. And it's funny to me, the things that people don't realize and don't buy simply because they don't know. Ask. If you go to a farmer's market and see something, you're like, what's those green curly things? What are those? They'll know. They'll tell you. They know what they are. The other one I posted on the recipe group was, what do you do with your kohlrabi? And the amount of people that went, what the hell is kohlrabi?
Yeah. Because I saw that post and I thought the same thing. And I thought, you know what? I'll just wait till you answer everybody else.
Right. And it's a cruciferous vegetable. It's much like a turnip. It's hard and crunchy, kind of like turnips or carrots. So you can eat it raw. It's got a very mild, sweet taste. Some of them have a little, like radishes, how some are mild and some are a little bit more peppery.
Yeah.
So depending on where they were grown, but we always roasted ours. I was surprised how many people eat them raw. But yeah, the amount of new things that people are surprised that they can't do, or the tops of greens. So when you buy radishes and you cut off all the leaves and throw them away.
Yeah.
Radish leaves make amazing pesto. So keep them and make pesto. Your beet greens, same thing. The tops of all your beets, if you eat beets or you get them fresh from the farmer's market, golden beets roasted are absolutely amazing. Same thing. The leaves are something that you can use. You don't have to throw them away, but everybody does because that's just what you assume is the thing to do.
Yeah.
It's the same with dandelion greens. Everybody mows over them and does everything they can to kill them, but every time you buy a spring green mix at the grocery store for $5,
that's what you're buying.
You're getting dandelion
which
inside
I learned
there
from you.
Right.
But,
it's just a box of weeds mixed in with some lettuce. That's what you're buying and you're paying a whole lot of money for. If you really wanted to, you can literally go out in your front yard, pick the leaves off your dandelion flowers, wash them off, and put them in your salad. It's the same thing. Exact same thing.
Or feed them to your rabbits. So.
Right. That's why I always think it's so funny. Literally, people spend millions of dollars to get rid of the dandelions in their front yard. And subsequently, people also spend millions of dollars to buy those specialty greens for their rabbits and their salads. Like, you're going to spend 10 times more money for something simply because of the fact that you don't realize that it's literally the weed that's growing out your... Sorry, I see a shadow in front of the door. It's always funny when there's someone... Oh, it's Stephanie and Eli.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was like, why is there a shadow in front of the door like they want to come in here?
Well, it could be the studio ghost, but that happens now and then.
Right?
Yeah.
The other one that people don't realize there's a lot of are onions.
Yeah. I'm looking at your sheet here.
I brought Pete some like full page color spread notes today because I felt fancy.
Yeah.
But onions, there's a lot of different onions. And sometimes you're trying to figure out. Is it going to focus?
There we go.
See, it's funny. I should just put this on my page. For all you radio people that can't see our show, tune into Facebook and see what we got going. Or YouTube. You can subscribe to our YouTube page.
Visuals work so well for the 500,000 listeners at the moment. So,
but in your grocery store, at least in our grocery stores here, I know some of the more produce oriented or the ethnic grocery stores, or when you get in certain locations, I'm sure every grocery store in California, because they're all just like that. you might get a larger selection. Most grocery stores, you're going to see white onions, yellow onions, purple onions, and what's the other one that I'm trying to think of?
It's got to be on your list.
Yeah, it's on here, and no, I'm not. How is it? It's seriously not on here? Oh, shallots. That's the other one. Those are ones that you'll commonly see. And then when they're in season, Vidalias, which are just a species of sweet onion that grows in Vidalia, Georgia. When you're in a Butera market out in Algonquin, their produce section is like a neighborhood. It's insane. The one wall, it's like 45 feet long, is just lettuces.
Wow.
It's amazing. I went there for lemongrass, and I was like, holy crap. Like if I didn't have to go home, Ben actually called me. He was like, are you coming home? Didn't you just go to the store for one thing? It's like, I haven't even left the produce section. Like, they put the beer on the other side of the store. I don't know if I'm going to make it home tonight because I got to make it from here all the way over there to grab you a case of beer. Wow. I'm going to be here for a while. And it was, because it's a beautiful grocery store. But leeks, green onions, pearl onions, there's pickling onions, red onions, Bermuda onions, cipollini onions, white, yellow. There's the Vidalia, which is from Georgia. Obviously, there's also a Texas sweet onion. I've had those when I was down in Houston. Pearl onions are the little tiny ones that go really, really good in Bloody Marys. So, and leeks, a lot of people, I love grilled leeks. You clean them out because they're really sandy. You just slice the end off, trim the tops, coat them in a little bit of olive oil, some seasoning if you want it, and just grill them whole. Like, I will slice them straight down the middle so they just split in two halves, and you grill them whole, and they're absolutely fantastic. But different onions yield different flavor, like chives.
Yeah.
You know, they're little tiny, mild flavored. Whereas if you get like a Spanish white onion, it's a punch you in the face kind of flavor. It's really good in salsas and pico de gallos and stuff like that. Whereas the purple and red onions lend really well to pickling. So if you do a quick pickle on a purple onion, it's amazing in a salad. Absolutely. Or like on top of a hummus. So good. Absolutely. And in all honesty, if I have pickled onions in my refrigerator, I will eat just the pickled onions.
Wow.
I'll have to bring you some in. If I make some spicy pickled onions, you would probably eat the whole bowl.
Probably.
Yeah, they're super, super, super tasty. But that's the thing, like, all of these different things that when you start experimenting with, you can bring flavor without having to oversalt your world. And it's not like I'm saying that you have to have zero sodium in your life. And even though you don't necessarily crave sodium, there are people who are more sodium sensitive. Just like being allergic to bees or fruit or something else, there are people, one of my good friends, actually, I keep hitting the microphone. One of my good friends is actually that kind of person. You know, she looks at a salt shaker and she swells 6 pounds. It's just, some people are like that, like you with beef.
Yeah.
Some people are more sensitive to certain things. So you got to be careful. Salt doesn't seem to affect me as much. But now it kind of does because I'm all puffy. But that's a combination of like 6 different diseases.
Yeah.
Getting old's fun, right, Pete?
Hey, yeah, and you're like way behind me. You're like really friggin' young compared to where
Although
I'm
I got
at,
a lot of people who are pointing out my lovely gray that I'm letting grow out. People, think that it's okay to mention anything these days. It's fantastic.
Well, yours looks like you almost had it done.
Someone said that in the grocery store the other day.
Yeah.
Who does your hair? Me. Age. I got old and I got tired of dyeing it.
Yeah. So, yours, you actually have that hip looking, like it's
looking.
Okay, now I'm dating myself because who uses that word anymore, right? But
I don't know. A lot of people are bringing a lot of things back, so
okay, well then I'm.
You're hip again?
Yeah, I'm hip again.
You went from
crap.
hip to old to current all in one sentence.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to leave it alone.
Oh man. But I think it's funny because, the world of social media and all of these things have given people these luxuries to ask things they would never ask in a million years. And it is funny to me how many people are so bold, and it does open my perspective when I hear such things. But it's I like the fact that when someone poses a question to me about sodium or lifestyle or what I eat or what I don't eat, or if I use salt, if I don't use salt, what I do on my diet to keep me off of all of my medications, all of these things. And when I post something, or if I say something on my show, like the one I got yelled at for was giving people grief who are overweight. I don't care if you're overweight. And I never said that. And I gained perspective from that comment going, I didn't mean to offend anybody who's heavy set. Because I like it does. Everybody's different.
When did you get grief for that? Because
it was a while ago. I made a comment because I saw someone with their kid, and their kid had a 7-year-old had a 20-ounce Starbucks tri-colored bucket of sugar, essentially, and caffeine. So when you're crying that you're overweight, you can't do anything, and your kids are overweight, and this, that, and the other, and your kid's a picky eater. Well, I'm sorry. Like under the age of I moved out of your house, because I used to say 18, but now everybody seems to live at home until they're 27. It blows my mind. Whole other show. I'll save that for like the grounds one morning. But when you're crying about, that's what bothers me. So it doesn't matter if you're overweight. There's a million reasons why it's hard to lose weight, especially if you're over 40. Male or female, doesn't matter. Your body changes. Your insulin dependence changes, your hormones change, everything changes. So it all varies. So it's not about being fat. It's about being fat and bitching about it and still doing nothing.
And that's the thing. I mean, I'm from the waist up to my chest, I'm a round fellow. Skinny little chicken bone legs, but from the waist up, I'm a big.
You're
round
a weeble
fellow.
wobble, but you don't fall down.
Exactly, yeah, and I know the exact reason for that.
Right,
is very simply put,
when angels sing for Twinkies.
Yes, that even more simply put, angels sing for Twinkies.
Right,
and I consume far more calories than I do movement.
Right,
I sit all the time.
Right.
And people were shocked the other day when I walked to a chamber mixer from the chamber office, walked a couple of blocks. Holy crap, you walked down here? At any rate, we're at 3 minutes.
But yeah, so that's, it gives me perspective, because I don't, and I love being able to explain to people and say, you got to understand, this is coming from my perspective, that I know how hard I work to be where I'm at. And I still have my own trials. Like 2 weeks ago, I gained 12 pounds in a week.
Wow. How'd you do that?
I don't know is the answer. Oh. I mean, I'm sure that the ice cream every night doesn't help, but that didn't change. It's not like I suddenly started that habit.
Yeah, but you're like 90 pounds soaking wet. So noticing 12 pounds is
but that's the thing is, so it's just funny to me because of the fact that you I know I'm not fat. I know that. But when you gain that much weight in a short period of time and your clothes don't fit
you feel
internally, I don't care who you are, how strong you are, emotionally that affects you. So I understand from that perspective what it's like, whether you're fat or not, to have those internal trials and tribulations. But if you want to cry to me when you're 400 pounds that you can't do anything about it and that your kids are overweight and all that, that's what bothers me. So the perspective of things is what I love that this show brings about.
Yeah.
So
real quick, how does everybody find you?
My LoSo Lifestyle Facebook page, website, and YouTube, please. I cry about this every single week. Subscribe to our YouTube page for 216 The Net and for My LoSo Lifestyle. The more YouTube subscribers that we have, the more luxuries we have, and the bigger and better we can grow and continue doing all of these lovely shows that we love doing. So, and I will not be here next week. I have my follow-up endodontist appointment. So next week we will be off. It'll be a best of, and we'll see you the following week.
All right. Sounds good.
Have a good one.
Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Oh, that's not closed.